right, that's Don Landis. Why they name whiskey after men? Yeah, little simple truths. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
A bottle of Jane Daniels would be a
I know.
totally different
It's
thing,
funny.
right?
I just played the Americana Fest in Nashville, and I was playing that at 3rd and Lindsley, and I looked up, and there was a giant Jack Daniels sign, and I was like, yep, yep.
That's
Proving
funny.
my point.
So we just mentioned Don Landis has this new record out called "Meet Me at the River." I don't. Do you consider it a country record? It's kind of a.
I think, yeah, it's definitely leaning in the country direction, I think.
And so you have to have a song about whiskey.
You gotta do
preferably
it.
referencing heartbreak at the same time, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I probably stole the idea from a bartender somewhere.
Yeah. So tell us about the record, how it came about, how you because you've been doing this sort of esoteric folk music and stuff over the years, and here comes this
Yeah.
Nashville sounding record.
It's funny because I don't, for me, it just seems like these are the songs that I wrote and it's not that different. But I specifically did want to have a record that had that Nashville sound in quotes, you know. And what I mean by that is, I guess, the sound of the countrypolitan stuff, especially, and then, you know, the late 50s, early 60s sound coming out of Nashville. Really lush, beautiful, beautifully orchestrated, beautifully played stuff. And so that was my intention, to make something that would fit into that world, I guess. And yeah.
It's not just production, though, right? I mean, it's the way you wrote the songs as well.
It's true. You're right. And I feel like I sought out a producer that would help craft the whole project to fit in those parameters, because I just create and don't think about it, you know. And I think that's ultimately what a producer should do, is help streamline the vision a little bit. And that's what Fred Foster helped me do, for sure.
Yeah, he's a really legendary producer. You want to tell who's he worked with? What's his pedigree?
Oh, man. Well, he's in the Country Music Hall of Fame. I think he was inducted last year. And Fred he's a living legend. He's probably, he's in his late 80s now. And he used to run Monument Records, which put out such great music. That was his label. He was the publisher. He had a publishing company. He signed the artists. He produced the albums. And it was back in the days when it was like Chet Atkins was his buddy. You know, they would sign the artists, they would produce them, they would record them, they would like champion the records all the way through. That doesn't really happen as much these days, but he was one of those guys, and he is responsible for all the Roy Orbison hits and Dolly Parton's first record, and he's got a co-write on Me and Bobby McGee with Chris Christopherson. He signed him, and so lots of Willie Nelson. He's worked with him for years.
I think I read somewhere the last project he did was like Willie Nelson,
Yeah.
Merle Haggard, and
Yep.
then from there to Don Landis.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, when I first met him, I was like, I got a song for Willie, you know. And I played him like the first verse, and he was like, "Ma, Willie would never say that." So, darn it.
So you went in and strummed your guitar and sang your songs, and he said, "Let's do this with it." Did you have an idea for how you wanted to arrange it?
Sort of, except stretch that out over months and
Yeah.
months. You know, it took a long time. The whole process was very long, partly because he doesn't use email. So I was living in New York at the time, so I was coming to his house essentially in Tennessee to work with him and play him music. And, you know, I was sending him demos in the mail, but, you know, the best was when we would just sit across from each other and what he called woodshed some songs, you know, like I would have lyrics on a sheet of paper and he would look at them, like comb through them.
Was that ever humbling for you to do?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
"Don, what are you doing?"
Well, you know what's funny? I thought about this the other day. I hadn't experienced that since when I first moved to New York City. When I went to college, I started doing the Jack Hardy Songwriters Exchange. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it was called Fast Folk. The Smithsonian Folkways used to release all the Fast Folk recordings. It's a group of songwriters in Greenwich Village, like Townes Van Zandt and Dave Van Ronk, and Suzanne Vega was a part of it at one point. A lot of people came in and out when they were touring through New York. They would come to Jack Hardy's house and play their song, and they would bring the lyrics written out, and everybody would look at them. And everybody would eat pasta and drink wine and talk about what the song meant, but they would look at it very intently. And that was sort of like my songwriting school when I first moved to New York. I did that every Monday for a year or more, yeah. So not since then have I experienced that. So it wasn't totally foreign to me, but it was, yeah, it's a little humbling no matter what.
Cool. So the record we're talking about is "Meet Me at the River." Yeah, it'd be fun to talk some more about this too. You have some amazing musicians in there as well.
Oh yeah.
Let's get another song and we can chat some
Okay,
more about it.
sure.
So, another song off the record, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Let me do a quick tune up here.
I'll let folks know Dawn does not have a show in the area, so this is kind of a radio tour, right?
Yeah, it's kind of fun to get to see the towns during the day. I usually feel like I'm racing to sound check, but I hope to be playing here soon